A recent U.S. airstrike in the remote region of northern Nigeria eliminated a militant commander named al-Maluki. The administration immediately took a victory lap, claiming this commander was the second most important person in ISIS globally. That claim relies on a very specific view of how terror networks operate. The idea that taking out a high-ranking lieutenant will cause a massive, centralized organization to collapse on itself. But treating an isolated strike as a massive geopolitical win ignores reality on the ground. The map we are using to understand modern militancy is completely wrong. To understand why, look at where this strike actually happened. The Lake Chad and Sahel region in West Africa is exceptionally isolated. Within that territory, al-Maluki wasn't directing global operations. He was a local boss managing a highly entrenched state within a state. His group handles its own recruiting, training, and logistics entirely on the ground. They don't require international funding either. They survive entirely on a local tax base, drawing resources directly from the surrounding agricultural and pastoral communities. There is also a stark cultural divide. The Black African militants operating in this part of Nigeria actively avoid mingling with Arab members of ISIS in the Middle East due to regional prejudices. That racial disconnect severs any practical operational ties between the groups. Because of this deep cultural isolation and self-sustained infrastructure, al-Maluki's influence hit a hard wall at his own regional borders. He offered nothing to the rest of the world, and he took nothing from it. This isolated reality is a huge departure from the past. Leading up to 2001, global terrorism operated with a specific apex cell structure that actually deployed operatives to execute coordinated missions. In the aftermath of the Iraq War, that centralized system shattered. What replaced it was a series of regional commands that, at best, barely even communicate with one another. Today's militant landscape operates as a franchise model. Global leaders provide a brand name and radical ideology, but zero actual resources. They simply broadcast talking points, hoping that isolated sympathizers in Europe will pick up a weapon and act on their own, completely unassisted. In a fully decentralized system, eliminating a local branch manager in the Sahel does absolutely nothing to stop the broader ideological movement. Despite this shift in how these groups operate, the default American military response remains the same: project power from a distance by dropping a few bombs. These high-tech strikes clash with the geographical reality. Militant groups are deeply entrenched in remote areas with poor infrastructure, incredibly far removed from actual seats of government power like Lagos. To permanently neutralize these groups, you have to alter the day-to-day security environment. That requires active, consistent ground patrols so locals can live without fear. Establishing that kind of safety takes an immense scale of force. We stationed roughly 170,000 ground troops throughout Iraq and Afghanistan to do exactly that, and it still proved wildly insufficient for the task over 2 decades. Dropping occasional explosives from the sky does zero to change the local wrath. It leaves the entrenched military and social structures completely intact. We have seen this exact playbook before. Relying on remote airstrikes without securing the ground was America's primary anti-terror strategy throughout the 1990s. Instead of crippling these organizations, it stirred the hornet's nest. The strikes provided militant groups with highly effective propaganda, which they used to rapidly boost their local recruitment. Those strengthened networks then used their newfound momentum and manpower to execute the 9/11 attacks. Treating a decentralized, deeply entrenched geopolitical threat with unserious, isolated drone strikes guarantees we repeat our most deadly historical mistakes.